Hey everyone, welcome to the BookRank Chronicles. Today, we're diving into the best books of March 2025, handpicked by the book-loving wizards at Amazon Books Editors. Get ready to discover your next page-turner, because who doesn't love a good book binge? Wild Dark Shore, a novel by Charlotte McConaghy. Publication date: March 4th, 2025. Print length: 307 pages. A family on a remote island. A mysterious woman washed ashore. A rising storm on the horizon. Dominic Salt and his 3 children are caretakers of Shearwater, a tiny island not far from Antarctica. Home to the world's largest seed bank, Shearwater was once full of researchers, but with sea levels rising, the Salts are now its final inhabitants. Until, during the worst storm the island has ever seen, a woman mysteriously washes ashore. Isolation has taken its toll on the Salts, but as they nurse the woman, Rowan, back to strength, it begins to feel like she might just be what they need. Rowan, long accustomed to protecting herself, starts imagining a future where she could belong to someone again. But Rowan isn't telling the whole truth about why she set out for Shearwater. And when she discovers sabotaged radios and a freshly dug grave, she realizes Dominic is keeping his own secrets. As the storms on Shearwater gather force, they all must decide if they can trust each other enough to protect the precious seeds in their care before it's too late, and if they can finally put the tragedies of the past behind them to create something new together. A novel of breathtaking twists, dizzying beauty, and ferocious love, Wild Dark Shore is about the impossible choices we make to protect the people we love, even as the world around us disappears. Deep Cuts, a novel by Holly Brickley. Publication date: February 25th, 2025. Print length: 275 pages. Look, the song whispered to me that day in my living room. Life can be so big. It's a Friday night in a campus bar in Berkeley, fall of 2000, and Percy Marks is pontificating about music again. Hall & Oates is on the jukebox, and Percy, who has no talent for music, just lots of opinions about it, can't stop herself from overanalyzing the song, indulging what she knows to be her most annoying habit. But something is different tonight. The guy beside her at the bar, fellow student Joe Morrow, is a songwriter. And he could listen to Percy talk all night. Joe asks Percy for feedback on one of his songs, and the results kick off a partnership that will span years, ignite new passions in them both, and crush their egos again and again. Is their collaboration worth its cost? Or is it holding Percy back from finding her own voice? Moving from Brooklyn bars to San Francisco dance floors, Deep Cuts examines the nature of talent, obsession, belonging, and above all, our need to be heard. Waste Wars, The Wild Afterlife of Your Trash, by Alexander Clapp. Print length: 349 pages. Publication date: February 25th, 2025. Dumps and landfills around the world are overflowing. Disputes about what to do with the millions of tons of garbage generated every day have given rise to waste wars waged almost everywhere you look. Some are border skirmishes. Others hustle trash across thousands of miles and multiple oceans. But no matter the scale, one thing is true about almost all of them: few people have any idea they're happening. Journalist Alexander Clapp spent 2 years roaming 5 continents to report deep inside the world of Javanese recycling gangsters, cruise ship dismantlers in the Aegean, Tanzanian plastic pickers, whistleblowing environmentalists throughout the jungles of Guatemala, and a community of Ghanaian boys who burn Western cell phones and televisions for cents an hour to tell readers what he has figured out. While some trash gets tossed onto roadsides or buried underground, much of it actually lives. A secret hot potato second life, getting shipped, sold, resold, or smuggled from one country to another, often with devastating consequences for the poorest nations of the world. Waste Wars is a jaw-dropping exposé of how and why, for the last 40 years, our garbage, the stuff we deem so worthless we think nothing of throwing it away, has spawned a massive, globe-spanning, multi-billion-dollar economy. One that offloads our consumption footprints onto distant continents, pristine landscapes, and unsuspecting populations. If the handling of our trash reveals deeper truths about our Western society, what does the globalized business of garbage say about our world today? And what does it say about us? The Antidote, a novel. By Karen Russell. Publication date: March 11, 2025. Print length: 433 pages. A most anticipated book of 2025 from Lit Hub, Marie Claire, Time, Vulture, Esquire, People, the Chicago Review of Books, and Bookpage. The Antidote opens on Black Sunday as a historic dust storm ravages the fictional town of Uzi, Nebraska. But Uzi is already collapsing, not just under the weight of the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl drought, but beneath its own violent histories. The Antidote follows a prairie witch whose body serves as a bank vault for people's memories and secrets, a Polish wheat farmer who learns how quickly a hoarded blessing can become a curse, his orphan niece, a basketball star and witch's apprentice in furious flight from her grief, a voluble scarecrow, and a New Deal photographer whose time-traveling camera threatens to reveal both the town's secrets and its fate. Russell's novel is above all a reckoning with a nation's forgetting, enacting the settler amnesia and willful omissions passed down from generation to generation, and unearthing not only horrors, but shimmering possibilities. The Antidote echoes with urgent warnings for our own climate emergency, challenging readers with a vision of what might have been and what still could be. On Air, The Triumph and Tumult of NPR, by Steve Oney. Publication date: March 11, 2025. Print length: 568 pages. An epic reported history of National Public Radio that reveals the unlikely story of one of America's most celebrated but least understood media empires. Founded in 1970, NPR is America's most powerful broadcast news network. Despite being overshadowed by the larger and more glamorous PBS, public radio has long been home to shows such as All Things Considered, Morning Edition, and This American Life that captivate millions of listeners in homes, cars, and workplaces across the nation. NPR and its hosts are a cultural force and a trusted voice, and they have created a mode of journalism and storytelling that helps Americans understand the world in which we live. In On Air, a book 14 years in the making, journalist Steve Oney tells the dramatic history of this institution, tracing the comings and goings of legendary on-air talents, Bob Edwards, Susan Stamberg, Ira Glass, Cokie Roberts, and many others, and the rise and fall and occasional rise again of brilliant and sometimes venal executives. It depicts how NPR created a medium for extraordinary journalism, in which reporters and producers use microphones as paintbrushes and the voices of people around the world as the soundtrack of stories both global and local. Featuring details on the controversial firing of Juan Williams, the sloppy dismissal of Bob Edwards, and a $235 million bequest by Joan B. Kroc, widow of the founder of McDonald's. On Air also chronicles NPR's daring shift into the digital world and its early embrace of podcasting formats, establishing the network as a formidable media empire. Fascinating, revelatory, and irresistibly dishy, this is a riveting account of NPR's unlikely launch, chaotic ascent, and ultimate triumph. Crush, a novel. By Ada Calhoun. Publication date: February 25th, 2025. Print length: 284 pages. When a husband asks his wife to consider what might be missing from their marriage, what follows surprises them both: sex, heartbreak, and heart rekindling, and a rediscovered sense of all that is possible. She's happy and settled and productive and content in her full life, a child, a career, an admirable marriage, deep friendships, happy parents, and a spouse she still loves. But when her husband urges her to address what the narrow labels of husband and wife force them to edit out of their lives. The very best kind of hell breaks loose. Using the author's personal experiences as a jumping-off point, Crush is about the danger and liberation of chasing desire, the havoc it can wreak, and most of all the clear sense of self one finds when the storm passes. Destined to become a classic novel of marriage and tackling the big questions being asked about partnership in post-pandemic relationships, Crush is a sharp, funny, seductive, and revelatory novel about holding on to everything it's possible to love: friends, children, parents, passion, lovers, husbands, all of the world's good books, and most of all one's own deep sense of purpose. All the Other Mothers Hate Me by Sarah Harman. Publication date: March 11th, 2025. Print length: 383 pages. The missing boy is 10-year-old Alfie Risby, and to be perfectly honest with you, he's a little shit. Florence Grimes is a 31-year-old party girl who always takes the easy way out. Single, broke, and unfulfilled after the humiliating end to her girl band career, she has only one reason to get out of bed each day: her 10-year-old son Dylan. But then Alfie Risby, her son's bully and the heir to a vast frozen food empire, mysteriously vanishes during a class trip, and Dylan becomes the prime suspect. Florence, for once, is faced with a task she can't quit. She's got to find Alfie and clear her son's name, or risk losing Dylan forever. The only problem? Florence has no discernible skills, let alone detective ones, and all the other school moms hate her. Oh, and Florence has a reason to suspect Dylan might not be as innocent as she'd like to believe. Hilarious and twisted, propulsive and furious, All the Other Mothers Hate Me is the must-read book of 2025. The Dream Hotel, A Read with Jenna Pick, a novel, by Laila Lalami. Publication date: March 4th, 2025. Print length: 336 pages. National bestseller Read with Jenna book club pick as featured on Today from Laila Lalami, the Pulitzer Prize and National Book Award finalist and a maestra of literary fiction, NPR, comes a riveting and utterly original novel about one woman's fight for freedom, set in a near future where even dreams are under surveillance. Sarah has just landed at LAX, returning home from a conference abroad, when agents from the Risk Assessment Administration pull her aside and inform her that she will soon commit a crime. Using data from her dreams, the RA's algorithm has determined that she is at imminent risk of harming the person she loves most, her husband. For his safety, she must be kept under observation for 21 days. The agents transfer Sarah to a retention center where she is held with other dreamers, all of them women trying to prove their innocence from different crimes. With every deviation from the strict and ever-shifting rules of the facility, their stay is extended. Months pass and Sarah seems no closer to release. Then one day, a new resident arrives, disrupting the order of the facility and leading Sarah on a collision course with the very companies that have deprived her of her freedom. Eerie, urgent, and ceaselessly clear-eyed, the Dream Hotel artfully explores the seductive nature of technology, which puts us in shackles even as it makes our lives easier. Lalami asks how much of ourselves must remain private if we are to remain free, and whether even the most invasive forms of surveillance can ever capture who we really are. The Man Nobody Killed: Life, Death, and Art in Michael Stewart's New York, by Elon Green. Publication date: March 11th, 2025. Print length: 261 pages. The first comprehensive book about Michael Stewart, the young black artist and model who was the victim of a fatal assault by police in 1983, from Elon Green, the Edgar Award-winning author of Last Call. At 25 years old, Michael Stewart was a young black aspiring artist, DJ, and model, looking to make a name for himself in the vibrant downtown art scene of the early 1980s New York City. On September 15, 1983, He was brutally beaten by New York City Transit Authority police for allegedly tagging a 14th Street subway station wall. Witnesses reported officers beating him with billy clubs and choking him with a nightstick. Stewart arrived at Bellevue Hospital hogtied with no heartbeat and died after 13 days in a coma. This was, at that point, the most widely noticed act of police brutality in the city's history. The Man Nobody Killed recounts the cultural impact of Michael Stewart's life and death. The Stewart case quickly catalyzed movements across multiple communities. It became a rallying cry, taken up by artists and singers including Madonna, Keith Haring, Spike Lee, and Jean-Michel Basquiat, tabloid legends such as Jimmy Breslin and Murray Kempton, and the pioneering local news reporter, Gabe Pressman. The Stewart family and the downtown arts community of 1980s New York demanded justice for Michael, leading to multiple investigations into the circumstances of his wrongful death. Elon Green, the Edgar Award-winning author of Last Call, presents the first comprehensive narrative account of Michael Stewart's life and killing, the subsequent court proceedings, and the artistic aftermath. In the vein of the short and tragic life of Robert Peace and His Name is George Floyd, Green brings us the story of a promising life cut short and a vivid snapshot of the world surrounding this loss. A tragedy set in stark contrast against the hope, activism, and creativity of the 1980s New York City art scene, The Man Nobody Killed serves as a poignant reminder of recurring horrors in American history and explores how, and for whom, the justice system fails.